Breaking news! The BRICS are strengthening. The United States is shaking. The invitation extended by Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva to Mexico, Uruguay and Colombia to participate in the next BRICS summit, which will take place in Brazil next June, has generated a significant international reaction, especially in Washington. This gesture, far from being a simple diplomatic courtesy, is presented as a strategic move with profound implications for both the Latin American region and global dynamics. Lula's invitation not only seeks to strengthen cooperation between countries in the global south, but also represents a clear challenge to the historical hegemony of the United States in Latin America. In his recent statements, Lula highlighted the importance of the invitation, stressing that although Mexico, Uruguay and Colombia are not official members of BRICS, their participation in the summit has significant value in fostering an inclusive global debate. According to the Brazilian president, BRICS represents almost half of humanity, and its members, such as China and India, have a crucial impact on the world economy. Lula emphasized the need for Latin America to have a voice in these types of forums, in a context marked by protectionist trends and the globalization of new economic blocs. The invitation also symbolizes a change in the way alliances and international relations are conceived in the region. For many analysts, the possible participation of these three Latin American countries in BRICS reflects the growth of an alternative to the traditional influence of the United States over Latin America. Through this initiative, Lula seeks to promote greater autonomy for the nations of the region, allowing them to explore opportunities for economic and political cooperation outside the control of Washington. In this sense, collaboration with emerging economies such as China and India could offer Mexico, Colombia and Uruguay new commercial and investment alternatives, which would allow for greater diversification of their economic relations. This move has also caused alarm in the United States, especially for former President Donald Trump, who has expressed concern about the possibility of Mexico, Colombia and Uruguay getting closer to BRICS. Trump, who has been a staunch defender of the unipolar dominance of the United States, views this rapprochement with distrust, especially since it could weaken Washington's economic influence in the region. In response, Trump has threatened to impose 100% tariffs on nations that participate in the creation of a new currency that challenges the supremacy of the dollar, which reflects the fear of losing global financial hegemony. In addition to the economic implications, Lula's invitation can also be interpreted as a response to the interventionist policies of the United States in Latin America. Throughout history, Washington has exerted a strong influence on Latin American governments, supporting those aligned with its interests and at times directly intervening in the internal affairs of these countries. Faced with this panorama, Brazil, under the leadership of Lula, proposes an alternative based on multilateralism, regional cooperation, and the strengthening of Latin American autonomy. In this context, the participation of Mexico, Colombia, and Uruguay in BRICS can open new doors for the region in terms of economic development, particularly in key sectors such as infrastructure, energy, and technology. On the other hand, Trump's stance reflects an obsolete view of international relations, one in which the United States tries to maintain its control over Latin America without recognizing the growth of new global actors seeking to redefine the world order. Instead of adapting to a multipolar world where several nations seek their own path of development, the Trump administration has chosen to impose coercive measures that could further isolate the United States in the international arena. The BRICS summit in Rio de Janeiro is shaping up to be a space where Latin American nations can reaffirm their commitment to regional integration and international cooperation. The participation of Mexico, Colombia, and Uruguay in this forum could mark the beginning of a new era of diplomatic and economic relations in the region, based on mutual respect and the pursuit of shared benefits. In this sense, Lula's gesture has a profound meaning not only for Brazil but for all of Latin America, which is beginning to strengthen its geopolitical identity without depending on the tutelage of Washington. From Mexico, the response of President Claudia Sheinbaum was cautious, stating that her government would evaluate the invitation and leaving open the possibility of sending a representative instead of the president. The fact that Mexico, one of the main trading partners of the United States, is considering Lula's invitation is causing great concern in Washington, as it could imply a reduction in Mexico's dependence on the United States and a rapprochement with the economies of China, Russia, and India. This would change the balance of power in the region and force the United States to rethink its foreign policy towards its southern neighbor. The surprise is also great in Colombia, a country that has historically been aligned with Washington, especially in matters of security and military cooperation. Colombia's rapprochement with Brics calls into question its traditional relationship with the United States and could mean a break with the model of economic and political dependence that has prevailed for decades. If Colombia chooses to diversify its economic relations with China and Russia, this would pose a threat to Washington's influence in the region. Although Uruguay is a smaller country compared to Mexico and Colombia, its participation in Brics would be equally symbolic. Uruguay's presence at the summit could inspire other countries in the southern cone, such as Argentina and Chile, to follow a similar path, seeking to diversify their trading partners and reduce their dependence on the United States. This movement reflects a growing trend in the region towards autonomy and the strengthening of strategic alliances outside the US orbit, something that could become the norm in the coming years. The Brics Summit in Brazil is presented as a scenario where Latin America can begin to consolidate its own block of power, challenging the traditional influence of the United States and showing the world that the region no longer depends on Washington's approval to make decisions about its future. This new power dynamic, led by Brazil, could lay the foundation for a stronger Latin America, more united and more autonomous. In conclusion, Lula's invitation to Mexico, Colombia, and Uruguay to participate in the Brics Summit represents a crucial step towards building a more integrated and autonomous Latin America. This initiative challenges traditional power structures and opens the door to new forms of collaboration and cooperation that could transform the region's international relations. By strengthening its global position vis-à-vis US hegemony, Latin America seems to be awakening and seeking its own path towards a more independent and sustainable future. The region's leaders are now more united than ever, working together to redefine their roles on the global stage. The whole world is watching closely this geopolitical shift that could redefine the rules of the global game as Latin America carves out its own destiny in the international arena.